Hi, everyone, and welcome to another podcast. My name is Glenn Moore, and I'm the host of this series entitled Understanding, Acknowledging, and Embracing. Many thanks for watching. So, I'm here to share information, knowledge, and dare I say, maybe some wisdom to raise your awareness of themes and topics affecting us all, both material and spiritual. In particular, I'm aiming to share what I call the bigger picture, some of the more expansive or alternative realities that we don't always hear or learn about, not at least in the current conventional world. Now, whether you fully understand what is shared here or not, whether you can accept it and embrace it or not, is of course entirely up to you. You're in charge of your own mind. Or, as my friend would say, take what resonates and leave the rest. So, in the first of the series, I introduced Neil Carter, an ET soul from the Andromeda galaxy. And Neil shared his story of incarnating as a human, explained his ongoing connections to his own species, and revealed some of his experiences here as what you might call a stranger in a strange land. Now, you may want to watch that podcast first if you haven't already, and you'll find the link in the description below. Anyway, Neil and I received some heartwarming and inspiring feedback from that interview. Neil has a lot more to offer, and so I'm delighted that he has agreed to come back for more. Neil, thank you so much for joining me again.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for asking me back, Glenn. Yeah, it's great to be back after doing the first one. And obviously, the first one, it was a little bit nerve-wracking for me. As you can tell when you watch the video, it's a little bit nervy. But with it being my first one, it's always a little bit of a nervous endeavor. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I'm glad to be back. And I've had loads of feedback from that first video, which is really nice. A lot of positive feedback from everybody, so I'm really grateful for that. But like you just said there, Glenn, it's not for everyone. Some people, might not believe in the extraterrestrial sort of side of things, which is absolutely fine. And you take of it what you will. Yeah, just thank you very much for all the positive feedback that everybody's sort of come back with.
Yeah, I mean, would you like to share with us, Neil, some of the feedback you received from your friends here on Earth, and also maybe from your people back home, if I can call it that?
Yeah, well, I've had a lot of the people have said, well done, for coming out and being so brave, and quite proud about, actually speaking about it. I was quite conscious of the fact that people might think I'm a bit of a nut and fruit cake. But no, it's been really positive. And like I say, a lot of people have been quite proud of the fact that I've come out and actually said it. But yeah, on the flip side of that, the ET family, equally proud. This is what they are wanting me to do now, is to speak more about them. They want me to put them into people's consciousness now, because they're a species that are not known to man. So it's important for them now for me to start speaking about them and making them a little bit more known. I'm sure that lots of people have sort of heard about a lot of the other sort of species that are talked about quite a lot, like the Palladians and Acturians and things like that. They're kind of like the household sort of names now, aren't they? But our species it's a very small species. We're not known to man at all. So that's where they're kind of directing me into now, is this role of being more of a spokesperson for them,
Mm.
rather than throughout all these years, it's just been a data gathering mission, observations, observing what it is to be human, observing other humans, observing society. So now that we're moving into this sort of different era of human consciousness, and they're looking at potentially making contact at some point. They want me to start moving forward into a more sort of spokesperson type role. So take that as you will.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's great. Well, I think you're a great spokesperson.
Oh, thank you. But like I say, this is from the very first one we did. This is them kind of putting me into the almost like um, it's almost like training me up, really.
Mm.
I mean, it's different from speaking to an audience of people. When you come onto the computer like this and you're doing this Zoom meeting and you're recording it to be put out to the internet world. It's a lot different from speaking to a personal audience, I think. So
Yeah.
it just takes a little bit of getting used to, I think, and especially with the information that we're talking about, that I've not really talked about in public so much. Really, it's a little bit getting used to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that people, the listeners, would love to know more about your people, as you call them. I mean, you said last time that they're operating in a higher vibrational state. You also described their appearance. You also said that their planet was uninhabitable,
Yeah, that's right.
and that was going through a healing process.
Yeah.
I mean, can you tell us a little more about that and how that is evolving?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, they suffered a little bit of an invasion by some quite nasty um, extraterrestrials, or one particular extraterrestrial called the Mitra, and they're quite well known throughout the galaxies. And they're like a bit of a plague of locusts, to be honest, because they flip from planet to planet, creating carnage and wanting to take over, and um, wanting to take over resources on planets and things like that. Just total control. Um, and they're quite happy to destroy, environments, planets. Um, so yeah, they invaded our planet, and they pretty much destroyed a lot of the environment there. Um, and so they did manage eventually to fight them off and get rid of them. However, we're a very peaceful, very benevolent, very loving species. So we don't have weapons. We don't have that in our mindset. So it was very difficult to get rid of them and fight them off. But eventually they did do it. But unfortunately, the planet is in such a destroyed state that it's uninhabitable at the moment. If I get my words out. So they're on board a large ship, which is still in orbit of the planet. So the planet is still there, but it's just not livable at the moment. So they're in the process of rehabilitating the planet and the environment, with a view, hopefully, they'll be able to go back. But in the meantime, like I said, they're on board a large ship, and this is where they're looking to make some kind of connection with Earth as well.
Mm.
There are resources here that they could use, but it wouldn't be, they're not going to just turn up and take things. They're like I said, they're a very loving, benevolent species. They're very cautious at the moment, but they want to make proper connections with the people and the planet. And it will be a two-way sort of enterprise where they can help the Earth and the people here in technologies and information in exchange for what they need, if it's agreeable.
Yeah.
But like I say, they're not going to just come here like they would do, like some species have done that already. So yeah, they're waiting till there's a point where humans have got to in their consciousness where it's going to be easier for them to turn up and interact.
Okay, well, I'll come back to that question of the level of consciousness or the quality of consciousness you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to ask you about something you also said last time around. You talked about your people aiming to make a connection with us here on Earth, and you also mentioned assistance. Can you expand upon that? Was that offering assistance or a mutual thing?
Yeah.
Were you aware of something specific?
Yeah, a mutual thing, but obviously assistance in certain technologies. But we're not going to be the first ones to show up here, to be honest. There's going to be ET contact before we show up, which is going to be a lot more humanoid, just to help with that process of integration and less of a shock for people, really. I mean, there's all sorts of extraterrestrials out there that look nothing like humans that are going to potentially show up in the future, but initially it's going to be more humanoid types of extraterrestrials. They're going to present themselves. Excuse me. So yeah, there's all sorts of ways that they can come and assist, like say with information and technologies and wisdom about the universe as a whole and things like that. So, but it'll be a mutual exchange. Like I said, they're beautiful people, very loving, very kind. There's no malevolence in them whatsoever.
Beautiful.
And they wish only the best for humans and the planet, basically. So, they've chosen this place because it's quite a unique place, and humans are quite unique in this experience. So, they've chosen to hopefully make a connection here.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. So let's just talk a little bit about the level or quality of human consciousness as it stands at the moment. And just for the record, we're in November 2024.
Well, we're all in a bit of a mix here at the moment, aren't we? There's still a lot. Most of the population, we're all spread throughout this 3D, 4D, moving into 5D, and some people are already in 5D. So we've got this mix of consciousness all sort of happening at the moment on planet Earth. So it's very inconsistent and it's very volatile still at the moment. So we're still in this process of consciousness awakening for some people. So they're waiting for this process to get to a point where this contact is more viable. The vibrational thing has to be within range or near enough match. They wouldn't be able to sort of turn up at the moment. The vibrational state of consciousness needs still to be raised for this to happen.
Right.
So this is what they're waiting for. They know that the process is in play, and this is what they're waiting on. They know it's going to happen, and the potential.
Well, that's encouraging.
They know the potentials of of humans
Mm.
and where we're going in this process. So yeah, that's what most of the ETs are waiting for. You know,
And
they're all
what do you?
out. They're all out. They're waiting for this process
Mm.
to get to the point where the majority of consciousness has raised itself out of the 3D, moving through into the 4D and 5D, so that the connection, it can take place. Really,
Yeah.
this is what a
Uh,
lot of them are waiting for.
And what do you think? I hear what I hear you saying is that human consciousness is not yet at the level that it needs to be to accommodate or to accept or to appreciate or to you know
Yeah.
to be okay with ET contact on this planet. I mean,
Well, not on not
direct
on
contact,
mass, not on
not
mass
in the
contact.
masses.
No,
Okay.
there are people that are in contact with. There's lots of people on the planet that are in contact with extraterrestrials at this moment, but it's on a very personal note, and a lot of those are star seeds here working. Um, you know, um, in bringing a lot of this information forward already, and have done for many years.
Mm.
A lot more people, bringing valuable sort of information through to help this process through, help people in this upliftment of consciousness, providing a lot of information for people. But at the end of the day, it's up to the individual whether they decide to, raise their consciousness and go with this reality
Mm.
where ETs are going to be turning up. It's not, sorry, what were you going to say?
So, are you talking about what I think some people call ascension or the consciousness shift in humanity? And what do you think? What do we humans need to do to get to the level that you're talking about? If if you can,
Yeah.
if you can tell us, if that's not too big a question.
Well, I think it comes down to people raising their vibration now. Yeah, um, what
But
some of the
how do
very
they do
what
that, Neil? That's the question, isn't it? I mean, I think a lot of people say, well, raising your vibration, what does that mean? I have a mortgage to pay, etc.
yeah. Well, it's all those things. It's coming into the awareness of who you are
Mm.
as a being. We're in this matrix on planet Earth, that this reality that has been created for us, and it's not a true reality of who we are, and what we're about. So it's coming into alignment with that. And when you understand who you are as a being, as a light being, a divine uh, being of energy here having an experience,
Mm.
then that automatically raises your vibration. It lifts you out of that three-dimensional thinking, and you begin to see the world in a totally different light.
Yeah.
Um, and it starts from there. That's the awakening bit. The enlightening bit becomes further down the journey, where you start to gather more information and learn about a true history of the planet, and
Mm.
who we are as a species, and start looking at all this information that all the star seeds are putting out there, and like I say, understanding what this reality is all about.
Mm.
um but
Yeah,
yeah,
you said
we're in this.
something. Sorry to interrupt. You said something that was I thought was very interesting before. You said about it was all about focusing on ourselves, to raise our vibration.
Yeah,
No,
well,
no need
go
to be afraid of anything. I think that's what you said at the end of the last interview, which
yeah,
really
yeah.
struck me as being, yeah.
Well, that's what this sort of reality is based on at the moment. By obviously the people, the controllers, let's say, of the planet,
Mm.
They're actively wanting to create this reality for you. They understand how reality works, and they purposely do it to control civilization, to control human beings on the planet, and they're trying to prevent this awakening process by suppressing that information, suppressing people from raising the vibration, suppressing people from understanding and knowing who they are as a divine being of light here having an experience. Because if that happened, then the game is over for them.
Mm.
I mean, the game is over anyway. But this is the whole game of it, is that they're trying to stop people from understanding who they are and what the real reality is.
Yeah.
So when you start to look at all this information, you automatically start to raise your vibration, go within, understanding what energy is. It's a process for people.
Mm.
So yeah,
And presumably we can raise our vibration by being loving, kind, friendly, warm.
yeah. Well, that's it. I
You know,
mean,
benevolent,
yeah.
like your species, right?
Well, you have to sort of decide what kind of future you want. What kind of reality do you want to experience? Do you want to experience a reality in the future that is peaceful, harmonious, society is loving and caring towards each other, and move forwards into a more peaceful future together that involves extraterrestrials?
Mm.
So it's making that choice now on what sort of reality do you want to experience.
Yeah.
And to do that, we need to raise our vibration, need to raise our consciousness to experience that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like I said, we're all of a mixed bag at the moment. This is why the world seems like a crazy place. You know, we've got people still in the 3D, 4D, and moving into 5D. So we've got all these different energies butting up against each other, which is creating a lot of chaos, which is what the controllers like,
Mm.
because it creates confusion in people. And, it tries to suppress people from understanding who they are. But it's not going to work.
No, well, I'm glad to hear
It's not
it.
going to work.
But just for people,
But,
Neil, that may not have seen the first interview, who do you mean by the controllers, and what are they seeking to gain? What's in it for them, if you like?
well, you know, there's been a lot of extraterrestrials here on planet Earth for eons. Lots coming and going throughout the ages. But there was a lot of negative and regressive extraterrestrials here from the early sort of 30s, 40s, namely some of the reptilians, a reptilian sort of extraterrestrial species, a lot of negative greys as well. But that's not to say that there's a lot of, they're all negative. There's a lot of positive ones out there as well. But the idea has been to sort of control society, control humans for their own ends, basically. There are resources here that they take, and unfortunately, human beings to them are a resource also. It's sad to say, but that's one of the reasons why they come in, is to take control over places, take control over planets and civilizations. It's what they do, and they're in that conscious mindset, and it's all service to self for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's what they do. for their own ends.
Yeah, and that you raise an important point there because this is something the law of one talks about. It's the choice between service to self or service to others.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And clearly people you're talking about have made their choice.
Yeah, yeah. And this
Um,
is where a lot of the abductions came from, people being abducted and things like that. Um,
right.
and DNA is very valuable out in the cosmos. These sort of a lot of negative, um, excuse me, negative extraterrestrials. They use human DNA to create hybrids and slave workforces for themselves and all sorts of things. Yeah, but
Are they
there's
cloning us, Neil?
the, there are some clones here. There are
Mm,
some clones here
so
that
I've
are
heard.
still connected interdimensionally with some of the negative extraterrestrials. Yeah, this is part of the problem that we as a species are having to deal with at the moment, and this is all part of this awakening process, raising our consciousness and awareness as to what is happening on planet Earth, and dealing with it now, dealing with it. Because, like I
Yeah.
said, they are trying to throw everything but the kitchen sink at humanity now, trying to suppress this awakening, trying to suppress this shift. Because once the people have woken up to the fact of what has been happening, the game's over. And it is pretty much game over now. I know we're just going through the motions of it, but
Mm.
that's not to say it's still not going to be a little bit of a rough ride for a wee while. Um, but
So are
yeah,
you saying that they're
yeah.
responsible for all the chaos in the world and what's been going on, the wars and all the rest of it? Or is that,
Well, certainly a lot
partly
of them.
human as well?
Oh, it's partly human as well because then, like I say, they know how to create realities for people, and they get people to do it, by themselves by
So
creating
manipulation,
situations
you mean?
through manipulation, by creating
Mm.
certain situations in the world, um, and then sort of people fall into that trap of giving their energy to it,
Mm.
which creates more of that lower vibrational consciousness. So we have to be smart now and understand how we're being manipulated and how this reality has been controlled for so long. But understanding that we have the power, not them. If they were truly in power, if they really had the power, they wouldn't have to do any of this.
Mm.
But they're so frightened of us now. They're so frightened of human beings because they understand that we are the power, and this awakening, this shift is taking place, and this is why they're trying to throw everything but the kitchen sink at everybody now to try and stop it, but um, it's not going to work.
Yes, it reminds me of the Good Witch in The Wizard of Oz. Do you remember at the end when she says to Dorothy, "You had the power all along"?
Well, that's right. It is. It's absolutely right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And if everybody understood that tomorrow, the game would be up tomorrow. But
right.
yeah, I mean, humans really haven't understood the magnificence of who they are yet. But that will come. That will come. And it's written into the DNA,
Mm.
which is now being activated, which is causing, not causing, but it's um, giving rise to a lot of awakenings in people. Um, so yeah, it's a process that we're in at the moment that's going to go on a little bit longer, but we're not far off now. And there are a lot of ETs standing by, benevolent ones, friends and family of the cosmos, shall we say,
Mm.
who are here now, willing this on and just tweaking here and there, a little bit, um, and standing in the wings waiting. So
Right.
we're not far off from this happening, and they are starting now to show themselves in the skies a lot more. People are witnessing things and flying around the skies that are obviously not technologies that we have. Um, but this is part of the exposure of what is out there now. They're just showing themselves a little bit more, sowing the seed into people's minds that there's a lot more out there than what they've been told. So,
yeah, I'd like to come. Sorry, I'd like to come back. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'd like to come back to that recent experience that you told me about as well, because I'm sure people would be interested to hear about that. But going in a slightly different direction, there has, as you may know, been a lot of talk on mostly on the independent social media about the Galactic Federation or the Galactic Federation of Worlds and their potential role in all of this. Now, I don't know how much you know about the Galactic Federation, but are they good guys, bad guys, or a bit of both?
Well, with any organization, you've got some good ones and some bad. It's just like people, really, isn't it? You got some nice ones and maybe some not so nice ones. Excuse me. I mean, the Galactic Federation is made up of a huge amount of extraterrestrials. So yeah, there's a lot of meetings take place, as so I've been told, on how much interaction they should take, and what the next steps are for contact and such like. And monitoring the situations on the Earth, what's going on. So yeah, there's a lot of ETs involved with that, and they're not the only organisation as well. They feed into, well, there's a few other organisations out there as well, but they all kind of feed into each other. You've got the Galactic Federation of Worlds, you've got the Intergalactic Confederation, the Galactic Alliance, and a lot of councils all within these organizations. So they're all working together for the benefit, the greater good of what's happening here and humanity. So they've really played their part while they've been here in getting rid of a lot of these negative and regressive extraterrestrials that I talked about a few minutes ago, because it would have been very difficult for us to continue along this ascension path, having these regressive extraterrestrials here. So we are being allowed to undergo this process now under our own steam. Basically, it's down to us now to go through this awakening process and this shift in consciousness.
Right.
They're not going to come down here and do everything, say, "Hi, we're here, we'll sort everything out for you," because we wouldn't learn nothing. So like I said, they've got our back. They're waiting in the wings. It's a very, very busy place in our solar system at the moment. There are thousands of ships there at the moment. And like I said, there is regular meetings with all these different councils taking place. So it's it's happening now. It's happening now. We're in a time in this even evolution where we're heading into this very new sort of time in our evolution. And if we wish it, extraterrestrials are going to be a part of it.
Right.
It's going to be a much more sci-fi future than what we think.
Yeah.
But on that note, can I just say that my species are not members of any of these the Galactic Federation of Worlds or the
Mm.
the other organizations.
Right.
However, we have had to seek permission through the Galactic Federation for me to be here and have this experience. There was a meeting that took place prior to my incarnation, where we asked for permission for exploration and to look at making this connection prior to me coming here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to sort of incarnate in. So they're very protective of Earth at the moment. They're very protective of the human species, but they understand that our intentions are very benevolent. They know that we're a very loving species. So they've allowed this experience for me to incarnate and come here.
Right.
Otherwise, it wouldn't have been allowed to happen.
Yeah, maybe for people, for the viewers watching this, perhaps you could explain a little more. I'm sure there are a few people who have never heard of the Galactic Federation. I mean, can you tell us a little more about it? Is it like a sort of galactic parliament? Is it, elected members? Who decides who's involved, which species, and so on? Without going into too much detail, I mean, can you give us an overview? Do they act as sort of policemen of the galaxy, or how does it work?
I mean, I don't know an awful lot, to be honest, about the Federation, but
because you said you needed their permission to come here, right?
Yeah, that's right. From what Lacton said, that it's made up of an awful lot of extraterrestrial races. I think on the last count, he said there was about 140 different species that make up the Galactic Federation. But I think it drops and goes up sometimes as civilizations coming and going.
That must be interesting, getting them to reach agreement.
Well, this is the thing, yeah. I mean, it's a huge sort of endeavor to get all all these agreements, which is why a lot of these councils are set up to
right,
make agreements on what the next steps are and what the federation should be doing next, and preparing the way, I think, really for the next sort of stage, which is contact.
Yes.
This is what they're all looking at now, and this is where a lot of all the meetings are about, is how and what contact is going to be like. But like I say, it all depends on us if we're ready, because they're not going to make the step forward until we're actually ready for it.
Sure. Yeah, Neil, one thing you said in the last interview, you talked about getting downloads from your people. I mean, is that specifically from Lacturn, your ET contact, your contact, he's one of your guides, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And how does it work? Do they extract information from you and then download information into you during sleep, I think you said?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then does it at some point come into your consciousness? How does it?
Well, it's always happened during sleep time, where I normally go to sleep and I get woken up round about them between sort of 2 and 3 in the morning, and that's normally because their energy, when it connects into my body, connects into my consciousness, it disturbs my energy and wakes me up. And then once I kind of go into that lucid dream state again, that's when they extract the information. That's when the download takes place, is after that initial sort of contact with the energy, and they're able to extract the information that they need or the data that they need. And then if there's any information that comes forward, any information that they need me to know, then it's during that lucid dream state. Sometimes they're very visual. It can be very sort of a visual representation, or sometimes it is vocal, where they're giving me a telepathic communication. Sometimes it comes all in a one. It comes in a little package, so it's not sometimes like a verbal sort of linear conversation like we're having. Sometimes it comes in a package of information, and then when I wake up, I have to write it down before I forget what the communication was. Yeah, but yeah, it's a mixture of visuals and that telepathic communication as well.
Right.
But I think more recently they're trying to be a little bit more telepathic with me. I think they're moving forward more with this type of communication, because, as you understand, I'm one of them. So there's a lot of thoughts and feelings that sometimes come through that are not my own and are coming from them. So it's just training now for me, which is what I think they're doing, is training me now to try and filter out what is my thoughts and what are their thoughts. And it's just understanding that now, trying to sort of work through that. It's just training, I think. It's training. So yeah.
And is telepathy, you think, part of the future of our human consciousness?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, our species is all telepathic, which is why I think they, that they prefer that type of communication. But like I say, I haven't been that receptive to it. So I'm in this sort of, like I say, they're trying to train me up into this, acknowledging that there's a telepathic communication happening, but it's getting my mind around understanding what are my thoughts and what are their thoughts, and the feelings between the two, the different sort of feelings between those two communications. But certainly humans, the human species is going to be moving more towards telepathic communication. I mean, I think Lactern said that within 20 years, there will be mobile phones will be pretty much useless. They won't be using mobile phones at all, really.
Right.
Telepathic communication will be more prevalent. And as children are being born in now through the next few generations, they're going to be more telepathic. So, yeah, I think, like I say, he says that within sort of 20 years or 20 years onwards, mobile phones won't be needed at all. And in fact, it will be more unusual if you're not using telepathy to communicate.
The other way around.
Yeah. So that'd be quite interesting.
Are you aware of having telepathic communication with humans at the moment, or indeed any other ET races apart from your own?
I've had the odd one or two connecting sometimes during sleep time. I've had the Ashtar Galactic Command connecting a couple of times.
Who are they?
They're part of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and they're pretty much, you mentioned like a police force. They are, I don't want to say police force, but they are like a more of a security, like the security force in the solar system at the moment. So they're pretty much there to control who comes and goes within the solar system, and through the stargates that are operating throughout the solar system at the moment. So yeah, I had a little bit of communication with a being called Vrillon, who is part of the Galactic Command. But other than that, the telepathic communication at the moment is predominantly coming from my own species.
I was I watched an interview.
Can I just touch on that again?
Yeah, of course.
But I mean, a lot of humans, you know, we're on the cusp of this telepathic communication. Anyway, I had a conversation with somebody earlier on this week, but even, you know, when the phone rings, sometimes you have that intuitive thought that it's such and such that's calling. You pick it up and it is.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the telepathic communication that is already there, you know, waiting to be expanded and used in human consciousness. You know, even twins, when you get people like the twins who were separated, sometimes one will be feeling something and the other one who was in a totally different place will be picking up on that, you know. So we already have that latent ability. It's in there. But like I said, there's a lot of these sort of things in humans have been suppressed for an awful long time within the DNA. So, like I say, as we go through this process of awakening, the DNA is starting to activate now. So, we're going to see a lot more of this, a lot more attributes and abilities of humans being activated, and you know, telepathy is one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Great. Bring it on.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. You briefly alluded to earlier seeing or being aware that there are a lot of ships in and around Earth at the moment. And you shared with me recently an experience you had when you were out on a walk in Scotland of seeing a ship.
Yeah. I've seen a few
And
now.
you took a picture as well.
I did,
Yeah.
Did you see?
Why not?
I showed you a few. Well, a
That's
couple of
right,
them.
you did.
Yeah.
You want
But yeah,
to
it's interesting because
you want to tell us a little bit about that?
excuse me. Yeah, well, like I say, they are starting to show themselves a little bit more now. And yeah, as I've been out walking, they've presented themselves to me a couple of times or a few times now, and I've actually you know, snapped them with my phone camera. So it's yeah, it's
Any
good to see.
communication? No
Not
communication that you're aware of.
not that I'm aware of. I think a lot of the time when I'm witnessing the ships, there is a subconscious connection taking place. So not on the conscious level, I am seeing them, but I think on a subconscious level there is some kind of communication that I'm not aware of.
Right.
But slowly, I think that's the order of the day at the moment, which is
No,
what they said. You know,
beautiful.
but yeah, I've seen a couple now, and I think it's just being open to it as well. You know, as you go out into nature, if you go out into these open spaces and that, and just being open to it, you know, and start looking up at the skies.
Yeah.
And you know, they are there. They are there. There's a lot more than what people think. But like I said, they are openly starting to show themselves a lot more now to raise awareness in people. It's just sowing those breadcrumbs, sowing those seeds in people's minds that we're not alone in the universe.
Yeah.
You know, they have to be careful because there's still a lot, like I said, a lot of people still in the 3D frame of mind and 3D consciousness. So it's been very carefully orchestrated. It's not, you know, they're not going to turn up here en masse and land tomorrow. So it's a very considered sort of process. So yeah.
Are you aware of, I mean, some people are saying that there are lots of non-human species also living in the inner earth, as they call it.
Mm.
so underground in various
Yeah.
places around the world.
Yeah.
Are you aware of them and um, their sort of situation, what they're doing?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Just living here,
Excuse me.
presumably.
I mean, there's been extraterrestrials living on this planet before we were here.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of species living within the Earth itself, but also in the in the oceans around the globe.
Mm.
A lot of species, uh, at the bottom of a lot of the oceans. In fact, Lacton has said to me there's about 35 species living on this planet, not just us. So
Well,
yeah, it's
35 non-human species, you mean?
that's correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
35 different species
Right.
aside from the human species, and like I said, a lot of them have been here way before ourselves, since humans were seeded here.
Mm.
So yeah, and there's a lot of concern by these species, and the way that we treat the planet.
You're
Um,
right. Mm.
they're concerned about the environment. Um,
By
and,
pollution, you
and, and,
mean?
and
That sort of
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
pollution. Yeah, quite rightly. But excuse me. And they do send drones out themselves to monitor the situation around the Earth.
Okay.
So they're monitoring the situation as well. This is their home as well, so they're quite concerned in the way that we treat it. Um, so yeah,
Mm.
it's a busy place on Earth and in the solar system as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I understand also that, I don't know if you can tell us about this, but that a lot of these ships are cloaked, so that they're not actually visible
Yeah,
to the human senses.
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I sometimes look at the sky here and I see these funny shaped clouds that look
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like flying saucers with
yeah,
with straight lines, and you think
yeah,
that's a strange cloud with a straight line.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they
Is there
can.
something hiding behind it?
Well, that's it. Excuse me for coughing. Yeah, you can never can tell really, but yeah, they can undertake any sort of shape and size. They can
Mm.
take on the sort of representation of a cloud, or even cloak themselves quite easily. That's easy technology for them.
Mm.
So yeah, there's potentially a lot more in the sky than what we're seeing. Sometimes with digital cameras and such like,
Right.
or if you see a lot of these military sort of videos of craft and things, a lot of them are taken with sort of forward-looking infrared uh, radar and things like that. So they're not always in the spectrum of our visible light, what we can see. So it's probably a lot more out there than what we're actually seeing. But like I say, they do want to start showing themselves an awful lot more now to people.
Mm.
Um, just like I said, to start this process of sowing it into people's minds that there's a lot more out
Yeah.
there.
And sort
Um,
of paving the way really to us having,
sure,
direct contact with them in the future.
sure, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, this is what they're looking forward to making contact here as well. With us.
Mm.
A lot of the extraterrestrials out there are more humanoid than what we think, human-esque.
Right. But
From
it
a
obviously makes
similar.
sense for us to meet the humanoids first,
Yeah, yeah,
rather than
yeah.
I mean,
Sure,
I
yeah.
understand there are sort of insectoids and all sorts of,
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
shapes and
Insectoids, and
sizes other than the reptilians, which themselves are probably not
that's right.
particularly
Yeah,
great to meet in the high street.
no, no. But yeah, this is where all our DNA came from
Mm.
in the beginning. Is from a lot of these extraterrestrials. So they're all friends and family. You know, and there's probably more humans out there in the cosmos than there is here on planet Earth. So these are going to be the ones that are going to show up first when contact is made.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, if some people are to be believed, there are already humans living on the moon, living on Mars, and living on some of the moons of Jupiter and one or two other planets as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Um,
right. Yeah,
so, I
yeah,
don't know if that's true or not, but
yeah.
it sounds
Well, humans have
plausible.
been seeded throughout the cosmos,
Mm,
on hundreds of planets. Um, the human form was sown initially in the Lyran constellation,
right.
um, on a planet called Man, which is where the human name came from, human. Hue is the energy that was put forward to create the species, and the planet where it was created was Man.
Mm,
So hence the name human. But from there, yeah, over the eons, they've sort of, for one reason or another, disseminated throughout the cosmos. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, a lot of friends and family out there that are here now, um, watching this process.
beautiful. You also mentioned before, Neil, your connection with Archangel Michael and an angel called Zolna.
Mm.
Can you tell us a bit more about that relationship? Is that sort of ongoing or
Yeah, well, they're on my spirit team,
your spirit team?
Yeah. So I have Archangel Michael, and
Wow.
uh, he looks after all my protections and um, paves the way for me, I suppose. Um, and Zolna, beautiful female energy, and she looks after a lot of my health. Although I've got a
Oh,
cough
wow.
at
That's
the moment,
beautiful.
I'll have
Yeah.
to ask her later for a little bit of healing.
Yes.
But yeah, a beautiful female energy, and very instrumental in looking after my health and well-being.
Mm,
Sometimes it's been very challenging and very difficult being here, having this human experience. So there's a lot of healing sometimes during the nighttime connections, um, just to give me a little bit of a lift and a little bit of energy. Um, Unfortunately, one of my traits, being here as an extraterrestrial, is that I don't get any uplifting sort of positive energy from other human beings.
oh, what? Not
Um,
even from me.
Unfortunately.
Just kidding.
But yeah, so I have to make regular sort of trips out into nature, as you
Mm,
know.
mm.
Um, that's where I get my energy from to recharge. I know Lacturn and the team do come in, like I said, during that sort of sleep time in the early hours. And if there's a connection that takes place, sometimes that can be quite depleting of energy. So they do try to insert some energy sometimes just to give me a little bit of a boost. But more often than not, I have to go out into nature, go for a walk, even if it's just for 10 minutes, out into the forest or by the sea or anything like that, just out in nature in general, just to recharge my batteries.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's
Yeah, me
just
too.
one of the traits of being here for me.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, Neil. Well, we're coming up to the hour mark.
Oh, has it been that long? That's gone quick.
I know when you're having fun, of course. But yeah, I mean,
Excuse me.
I like to end these podcasts, as you know, on a positive, uplifting note. That's not to say that what you haven't said so far isn't positive or uplifting, but yet again, I mean, is there something that you see happening in the world, or that you see happening with humanity, or that you see um, that is something that you can share with us that is that we can take away from this in terms of not just the ET element and the ET contact, but how we can evolve, let's say, um, in a sort of not necessarily a quicker way, but in a more um, harmonious way, that we can get away from all the conflict and the wars and all the rest of it and the fear. I realize that may be a lot to ask, but do you have any thoughts on that?
We're all having our own unique individual experience here as a soul being. So yeah, if you want to sort of, as the saying goes, if you want to see a more peaceful world, then you have to be peaceful yourself. If you want to see a world that is kind, then be kind. All these traits we have to become ourselves. Because what we see out in the world is just a reflection of who we are. It's a mirror to human consciousness.
Mm.
And like I say, this cabal, this uh, group of controllers, shall we say, they understand how reality is created. And so they're trying to get us to create that reality for them. So we need to understand how reality is created, and that is by our own consciousness and projecting that consciousness out, into the rest of the world. And as like workers and star seed beings and such like, we're all putting this information out there now, for people to look at and understand. So it's a choice now for people to make. It's not for us to tell people what they should think or what choices to make. It's allowing people to have the information and understand the information, and then making a choice from that point. And yeah, it's and from my perspective anyway, there are a lot of beings that do incarnate in, a lot of souls that do come into the planet specifically to undertake some of these negative experiences to help other humans, other souls, other beings to make the right choices.
Mm.
Show them that it's not the right way. They choose to come in and participate in these sometimes horrible situations, just to show the experience to the rest of the humanity, what is what direction we should go in.
Yeah.
But yeah, from my perspective, it's the extraterrestrial side of things is the whole, for me, the whole point in doing these videos is to try and get across to people that we are not alone here in this process.
Mm.
And the extraterrestrials do exist, and that they're here and they're waiting to make contact.
Yeah. Beautiful.
There's a whole new future waiting for
Mm.
us. We just need to make these positive choices now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Beautiful. Thanks, Neil.
that's the message now. Is we're we're not alone. We're in this process with a lot of help, and it's just that we just need to make this choice now, raise our vibration, and move into this new awareness of who we are, what we are, and why we're here, and make this world a more peaceful, harmonious place.
Yeah. Beautiful.
That's the future.
And we can be optimistic about the contact that we will have with ETs in the future. I mean, that seems to be your message.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be afraid of, right?
No, there's nothing to be afraid of. Nothing to be afraid of. They're here, willing us on. They're extremely proud of human beings for what we've achieved already. going through a lot of this stuff. But it's the rest of it is for us to sort out now. We have to, you know, make these choices for a better future for ourselves now.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I can say one more thing, obviously,
Of course.
my species, because they're chomping at the bit for me to say this. They're called the Colossi.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so
The
that's
Colossi.
the Colossi, and they're from Colosini. So that's the name I've had to give them because we don't have labels.
Right.
Which I said was going to make it very difficult for me, but they said, "Well, you pick one." So I've had to pick a name for my own species, just purely for reference, because, like I say, we don't have labels for anything. So yeah, so my species is the Colossi, and they're from Colosini.
Colosini. Wow. Yeah, that's the planet, right?
Yeah. Kalossi. The Colossi.
Kalossi.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well,
they'll be quite happy that I've said their name now.
Yeah, excellent. I wonder, Neil, whether you're the first being from Kalossi to appear on YouTube.
Well, I would imagine so, yeah.
I think you are, aren't you? Yeah. So yeah, I'm honored to be the first to bring it.
Excuse me.
To bring it to the wider audience. Yeah, beautiful.
But I mean, our planet it's only a very small planet. It's I mean, they consider Earth to be quite big. It's a very small planet. And like I say, they think that Earth is quite a big place. We don't have it's not a huge civilization. We're not a huge sort of species. And the last number he gave me 6,600.
Wow.
Is the size of our species. So it's not a huge species. So yeah.
And as my grandmother used to say, it's not quantity, it's quality, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful.
But
beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Neil. Yet again, it's been a great pleasure. Thank you for coming on and sharing with us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for asking me back, Glenn. And at least we got rid of the microphone problems like we had last time.
Oh yeah, well,
just a little cough this time.
But, all is good.
Yeah,
all is good. Thanks again. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for everybody for watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, thank you, everyone. And if you've liked this video, please press the like button or click on the like thumbs up underneath the video, and also subscribe to this channel if you'd like to hear more. And I hope we will hear more of Neil as well in the not too distant future. That would be great. I know he's got a lot more to share. And also, if you have any comments on what you've heard or seen today, again, please post them underneath this video. We are delighted to hear whatever you have to share with us. And we hope that you have got value and some insights and, food for thought, at least, from what we've heard from Neil today.
Just one more thing, just before we disappear, because I did read on one of the comments about somebody mentioned Elena Denan.
Oh yeah,
and the Galactic Federation of Worlds, I think. But Elena and I did have a communication. She is aware of me being here.
Oh,
we did have a communication a few years ago. So she's aware of my presence here. And like I said, we were not allowed to have this experience here without the Galactic Federation of Worlds being in the knowledge and agreeing to it and giving their permission for this to happen. So she is aware.
Great. So yet another endorsement and testimonial for you then, Neil. Not that you need it.
No, thank you.
Uh, so thanks again, everyone, for watching. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you or hearing from you or actually being with you on the next podcast. So take care until then. Thanks
Okay,
again,
so
Neil. Bye
thank
for
you very
now.
much. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.